For recording number 3, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the Chess Playing 2 and Chess Playing 3 article. The first one is the one on the effect of chess training on scholastic achievement, and the second one will be on the role of intelligence for performance in prototypical expertise domain of chess. So I'm wondering if somebody in the class for the first article can kind of summarize. I asked the group in the class to read kind of the conclusion, chess training expertise and the issue of research rigor. Lily, would you be kind enough to kind of share what your reflections were as far as, it was a really brief article here. What were they kind of saying here?
I'm sorry, because I just got so into the second article, so I'm just going to
Yeah, it's a little more rigorous. That's okay. Do you want me to ask Sam if he can help you with Article 1?
Yeah.
Sam, could you help with Article number 1 just a little bit there and kind of...
They said that like the problem solving that you need in chess can be applied to, or like there's potential for it to be applied to like the education and how it like can help like with learning. But also like they said that you can't really because in the school setting it would be hard.
So it's hard. The idea in the article, as you clearly say, is can we actually apply potential expertise in the school system or expertise in chess playing to the school system? Brittany, would you add anything to that for the first article? So would anybody else have anything to add to that? So it's very interesting for me as a child. So I told you I had a very serious disorder when I was young. Does anybody know what that disorder was? Usually I mention it once a class, unfortunately. Sorry. I had very severe asthma. Do you think I missed a lot of school days? I did. Do you think that my ability to play chess kind of made my parents feel a little better about my future potential? What am I now?
You're a professor.
I'm a professor. I missed a ton of school days growing up. I had very severe asthma, but the fact that I seem to have some skill in cognitive problem solving, but yeah, what they're basically saying here is, does this transfer into the schools? Maybe, maybe not. I missed a lot of days. I fought really hard though in school because I didn't really grasp a lot of topics, but I worked my butt off to try to achieve what other people had achieved, and I was very smart at playing chess. So by high school, I had kind of learned to overcome all the missed school days that a disease like asthma could cause, and I did all right, and I went off to college and ended up getting my PhD down the road, and feel very blessed that I've been allowed to do that. Did chess have anything to do with that? Not necessarily directly, but my ability to think and process information, I was doing that at a very young age. And so I think when I was going through my master's level and PhD level work, and even after that, I think some of the thinking did transfer to those realms that I had good problem solving skills. So this is saying this is a very difficult thing to measure in the school system. It would be hard to do, but it was kind of, was it just chess playing in that domain, or does it apply into other realms? That's an important question maybe to write down. Is it domain specific, or can it be applied into other realms? What do you guys think? When you're good at a game, can it apply to other situations? Can you give me an example?
Well, I could probably use chess.
So being good at chess might translate into being able to look at problems and think things through and come up with solutions and being a creative problem solver, as it would be. So that's kind of article number 1. Let's go for article number 2. I asked the class to read the abstract, and Lily, I think you were kind of focused in a bit on that.
Yeah.
Can you kind of say what they were up to? I was hoping for good things here. Can you kind of say what Graebner did or what he wrote about in his situation here?
Sure. Sorry, I just clicked the wrong thing, so I'm getting to that. So they were saying that you can't really, that it doesn't play a role in the other domains.
Of intelligence. So if we're looking at intelligence, it doesn't really play a role being an expert or novice in intelligence. Would anybody else add to that situation? Bella, would you add anything to that equation there? Why don't we go and look at the article a little more specifically? So page 1, you're not supposed to have the word introduction in your introduction, but they do, and we can forgive them for that. A good introduction should have a literature review. Do they do that there? They do. They kind of go through articles. This isn't a typical research study. They're kind of compiling what other people have done, almost a little higher level. Actually, if you go on the pipeline, let me share the pipeline with you for your notes. So this is the pipeline of what we call evidence-based. So this will be new information. You'll want to write this down. Evidence-based. Have people heard that term before? Do we have evidence-based? So evidence-based, the lowest level of evidence-based is basically opinion. Somebody shares an opinion. Sometimes in some of my classes I bring up an article where a guy from Natural News says you should never use any medications to treat psychiatric disorders. That's what? An opinion. Is there any science behind his opinion? He found a few things, but they were scattered and not really scientifically based. So evidence-based is what is the science behind it. An opinion would be the lowest level. What about what I shared with you in my story? What did we call that once again? Phenomenological. It would kind of be a case report. You could interview, if you were a researcher, 5 or 6 people who had become smarter, started out high, went low, and came back up again. You could do a case report. Qualitative, is that better than opinion-based? Yes, but is that really scientific yet? Not quite. What would be the third level? Quantitative, where you do a study. So third level would be a study. What are the 2 types of studies we talked about?
Longitudinal and cross-sectional.
Yeah, longitudinal, cross-sectional would kind of be at that level. For the third level. The fourth level would be if it was peer-reviewed and published in a journal. So you had a control group. So the fourth level might be a control group and published in a peer review. The fifth level might be what we call, and I'll spell it out for you, meta-analysis. A meta-analysis. In a meta-analysis, M-E-T-A, analysis, you basically summarize. You don't do your own research, but you summarize what everybody else has done. Is that kind of what they're doing here? Yeah, this is almost a meta-analysis, kind of a review of all the research out there. And then the final level I'll give you is called a Cochrane review. A Cochrane review. C-O-C-H-R-A-N-E. Has anybody ever heard of a Cochrane review? Does anybody know what they do in a Cochrane review? 2 researchers go and not only summarize all the research, but they critique it and say, this was right, this was wrong, here are the conclusions, here's what we need to do. So a Cochrane review is actually considered the highest level of evidence-based. Does that make sense for folks? So write this down for your notes. I'm writing notes here for the online class. So we have these 2 articles here, and if you go to page 29 in table 1, they kind of look at chess players and they look at not problem solving, but what are they looking at in table 1 there?
The different types of intelligence.
Different types of intelligence, so that may or may not correlate. And if you really want to get to the point of the major conclusions, where would you go? The beginning of where? The discussion. Page 31, expertise, general cognitive abilities. It doesn't appear that being great at chess necessarily translates into these different types of intelligence. Would this necessarily stop me in graduate school from doing a project on what I want to do? No, I have phenomenological experiences. You could collect that if you wanted to design a study, interview some people, come up with your own creative study. I don't think intelligence was really a part of it. I feel like it was really much more about creative problem solving and looking ahead and planning, and I just got better at getting all those pieces together and organizing the board, telling when my opponent was going to do the horse trick on me. Are people familiar with the horse trick, or trapping a rook, or diagonaling with the bishops? Simple things to much more advanced concepts. Any comments or questions about this? So you got the conclusions at the end. They went through the literature. Look what they say. There is a need for more longitudinal studies. Could be a perfect cue for you to come up with a master's or dissertation. This is kind of at the level of what in the evidence-based pipeline? What level would this article be considered?
Would be a meta-analysis?
Kind of close to a meta-analysis or review. Sometimes you can find articles that say meta-analysis, but this is kind of a bit of a meta-analysis. Any comments or questions about this? Okay.